The Fly in the Ointment, written by NathanOr BenZvi, translated by Andrei Lopukov. It came to pass on that day that peace reigned in the kingdom of the king and among his descendants. The king went to his throne, and he took the staff that was on his table. Behold, the king was dressed in magnificent and beautiful garments, red as a garden of roses, and their hems were blue like the edge of the sea. His royal garments were adorned with gold and silver decorations, and on his head was a golden crown set with diamonds. The king went to his window and looked out at his kingdom, and he saw his descendants feasting and enjoying themselves. The king realized that his descendants had forgotten him and the goodness he had given them, and he was saddened and wept, for they did not recognize their gratitude to the king. The king descended to the garden and saw his 3 wise advisers conversing and praising the king's kingdom. The king greeted them, "Peace be upon you, my advisers," and they replied, "Peace be upon you, our king." The king then looked and saw his 4th adviser, who was dearest to him above all. The king smiled broadly at his 4th adviser and blessed him as well. The dog Azet leapt with joy before the king, for she saw that the king's happiness illuminated the garden. The king descended with his soldiers to the people to see the actions of his descendants, and he saw their worn faces. His descendants were greatly terrified of him and wept, not knowing their place. He asked, "Why are you afraid of me? Why do you flee from me? Did I not just want to see you?" They answered him, "We have desecrated your kingdom and the land on which we stand. Have mercy on us and do not kill us." The king replied, "Be careful with your actions, my descendants, for this does not benefit you." The king went to his palace as darkness approached, and his descendants followed him. The king was received in his palace with joy and festivity. His descendants observed everything he did and began to converse among themselves about his grand decorations. They spoke about all he had done, including his tables, chairs, courtyards, servants, soldiers, and his splendid and honored royal throne. The king's descendants said to his 3 advisers, "The king's palace and kingdom are indeed very magnificent." The 3 advisers of the king responded, "Indeed, you have spoken the truth." The king's descendants were so pleased that they asked the 3 advisers to convey their gratitude to the king. The 3 advisers did as requested and said to the king, "You have made a great splendor in your palace and kingdom. Your descendants are very happy." After some time, the king's 4th adviser came to him and looked at his watch. "My king, I have been worried about you. Where have you been?" The king replied, "I have been walking through my kingdom and observing what I have accomplished." The 4th adviser responded, "Indeed, your kingdom is magnificent." The king's descendants returned to their home. The king went to his royal throne and looked out from his window, observing that his descendants had returned to their former ways, feasting and enjoying themselves without showing gratitude to the king. He became angry and said, "A fly in the ointment." One of the king's servants heard what the king had said. The troubling and disappointing rumor began to spread throughout the king's kingdom until it reached the king's 3 advisers, who were sitting in the king's courtyard discussing the splendor, quality, and praise of the kingdom. The king rose from his throne to draw with his brush the vision of his perfect kingdom that he saw in his mind. He smiled. His special and distinguished advisor observed the king smiling while he was drawing, and he smiled in his heart as well. The king commanded his soldiers to bring his descendants to his palace to admonish them for their mistake. He said to his descendants, "The ointment is good in its place of application, and the fly is good in its place of flight." They were astonished by the king's words. "Why did you say that your kingdom and everything you have done are a fly in the ointment?" The king replied, "I have created a perfect kingdom, yet my descendants have not recognized me." The king's descendants recognized the magnitude of their mistake and acknowledged their gratitude to the king for all the good he had done for them. From then on, the king, his descendants, his servants, and his 3 advisors, including the special and distinguished 4th advisor, lived in a flourishing and magnificent kingdom. The tale of the fly in the ointment was recorded in the king's scroll, and from then on, the king's descendants recognized their gratitude to the king every day.